Okay, well, let's get started then. So, two people who don't need an introduction and yet will get an introduction. The faculty, staff, and students of Temple's cinematography program are so excited to welcome Sir Roger Deakins and James Ellis Deakins. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
thank you.
You can get it. You can applaud. Yeah. There's been a lot of anticipation, even if it is just Zoom. We're so thrilled that you can take some time to talk to us.
Mhm.
And the ostensible focus of this conversation, which I will hopefully, as moderator, help us return to again and again, is the new book that was released on November 11th, Reflections on Cinematography. I have it here. It is gorgeous. And such a, especially for all of you cinematographers, such a pleasure to leaf through and read with lots of great tips and great stories. And a lot of stories that I don't think that the lay public tends to know. So this is exciting. So Team Deakins, for those of us or those of you who aren't initiated through your very popular podcast, I'd like to introduce the phenomenon that is Team Deakins. And this is the bio. I found this online. So this is just the typical bio. I think these things are sort of public knowledge, but I'd like to give a fulsome introduction of James, whose bio we don't tend to hear about as much as Roger's. Roger, we'll certainly get to you. So, James, you're a Jersey girl, at least by birth, yeah?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And the two of you share a photography background. Is that right?
Yes, I am. Started out in a film lab. So I knew all the technical aspects of film, as well as in college, I did a lot of multimedia shows.
Yeah. My first job out of college was also in a film lab in New York, but it wasn't DuArt, it was Dugal, if that's familiar. But
No.
I also worked in the print lab. So that caught my eye. James, so many film biographies start this way. I thought I'd be doing one thing, and then I found myself sliding into another thing, and then a slightly different thing, and here I am. And that seems to be true for you as well. What do you think is the right frame of mind for these students who are on the verge of heading out into the world themselves to slide into a bunch of things? Is it just about moving forward no matter what? What do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of important not to choose something because you're being pressured to choose something. My father always wanted to know, how are you going to make money? How are you going to make money? And I didn't know. And to, if you're not sure, to try different things, because when you find the thing that you want to do, you'll know. But the worst thing I would think is to end up making a career out of something you're not really interested in. And I've met a lot of people that have done that. And I guess their life outside of work is great, but I can't imagine going to a job every day that I didn't like.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Team Deakins, uh, I want to get into meeting in the Badlands at some point, but I do want to just say that I have figured out that your 34th wedding anniversary is a week from today.
Yeah. Did you book that?
I haven't booked
Oh,
that yet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
I guess it worked.
yeah. It worked.
So why does Team Deakins work?
I think that we're both really passionate about movies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we started, our relationship started as friends on a movie and collaborators on a movie. So we had a really strong work relationship before the personal. And it means that when we're in a personal moment, but something about work comes up, we can flip really easily, really quickly, maybe too quickly, because we are an incredibly boring couple, especially if we're shooting, because we spend the weekend saying, we're not going to talk about the film, we're not going to talk about the film. And then we just go, yeah, but you know that angle, don't you think it was a little bit too far to the left? We can go on for hours. Yeah.
Not talk about the yeah. I think we just complement each other, really,
Yes,
don't
we
we?
do.
You know?
Yeah.
James is very technical, especially with in the digital, the world of digital technology. She's amazing. So, and I'm not so.
But I also think that what starting as a script supervisor, your training is to see through someone else's eyes. So it enabled me to see through Roger's eyes and to see what it was that he was going for, and then try and protect that, you know, and by all the meetings and the prep work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading the screen. I don't know if you all can see the screen here, but
Yep.
I'm reading the, all of the responsibilities you take on a shoot, and it's a tremendous. I mean, what an incredible safety net you are providing here. The coordination with production, VFX, it's really quite a lot. I guess I'm curious, Roger, do you feel that having Team Deakins has made you a better cinematographer?
Oh, well, of course, absolutely. There's no question, yeah, it also made me feel probably a little less stressed out on a movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, the last few movies we did were really quite complicated. Do you think of Blade Runner 2049 or 1917? They're very complicated technically, and James was so much part of that. I mean, it was amazing.
And also, you really want to, on the set, be focused on the shot that you're
Yeah.
doing at the moment and not be thinking about what's coming up next week, which is naturally the production wants to think about. And
Yeah.
so by my dealing with that, it allows him to, focus ahead of time.
Stay looking through the camera and trying to avoid everything else.
I will
Yeah.
say that a number of DPs have come up to me and asked if I would work with them. I don't think they
Bet.
quite get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you
Well,
might
so look,
like it.
No.
I mean, I can imagine. I have put together a very loose structure for a conversation that we can return to if we feel like we get lost, or we can just ignore. But I wanted to start with a few beginnings from the book.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I wanted to start here.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't. It's in the book. I don't really want to talk too much about my mother.
No, yeah, no. I mean, here's what struck me is that throughout the book, I was thinking a lot about the early relationship to imagery that those of us in the film business, and especially those of us behind the camera, really at some point recognize, where an image comes to mean something beyond itself to us. And so I guess what I'm curious about is your relationship to images, Roger. You started as a photographer, capturing, stag hunts and like what, local color, I suppose.
Yeah, it's probably stretching it to say I started as a photographer. I mean, I didn't know what to do as a kid, other than go down the pub. And I went to art college. Yeah, I discovered photography. I discovered that I kind of like the idea of filmmaking. I always loved film, and the National Film School opened up in England, so I applied to the National Film School, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get in the first year. So for that 1 year, I was very lucky to get a job at an art centre in North Devon. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
from South Devon, so it was quite close to home. And my brief was just to record rural life in Devon, North Devon. So yeah, I was a photographer for 9 months, I suppose, professionally. But then I went to the National Film School.
Yeah, and I know we have a few people who've graduated in the audience, and one of our students applied to the school, and I guess I wanted to hear a little bit more about that first rejection, but then you applied again, yes? And
Yeah,
you were
well,
in the
yeah,
second class of the school, correct?
yeah. I mean, I got rejected, and I was really miffed. And so I got on a train to London. I met with the principal of the film school and asked him why. It's in the book. And I was sitting in his office, and he said, "Well, your work is really nice, but it's not filmic." And I said, "What's filmic?" And he pointed to a picture on the wall behind him. It was a dray horse, and it was a time exposure. So the horse and cart were slightly out of focus. And I said, "That's not. I don't see that's filmic. I see it as out of focus." And I thought I'd kind of blown it, but that was me at the time. And as I was walking out, somebody else said, "Just apply next year, you'll get in. We just need people with more life experience. It's not that you're not talented to do it. We feel you need to be in the world a bit longer." And I think that was really good, a really good call, actually. Mm.
Okay, so then you were in the world for a while. I love this moment in the book where you talk about, well, tell us about this poster, the significance at this
Well,
time.
it's absolutely true what I said. I was it was one summer, and usually I'd work for my dad on a building site or with my dad on a building site for the summer and then get a bit of pocket money. But this year I thought, well, I started getting interested in photography. So I went to the local, yeah, the little booth where photographers with a Polaroid take Polaroids of the holiday makers as they're walking along the seafront. It's just simple thing like that. And I went up to the booth and the guy that ran it, I said, "I can do that." And I was turned down. So that was it. At that point, I was not even a struggling beach photographer. So I found that poster, which came out about that same time. I remember seeing it and thinking, yeah, that's not even me.
All right, Badlands. Um, this is
That's
the beginning
jumping.
of,
That's jumping a
I
long way,
know, I
isn't it?
know, I
My
know.
God.
It's a huge jump.
It is. I had a whole career working in the UK before
But
Badlands.
doesn't matter because you hadn't met
Let's
me.
No,
let's
there was no life before James. Yeah. No, go
so
on
this
then.
is the beginning of Team Deakins happened on this set, yeah, on Thunderheart.
Yeah.
Um, but let's do stick with chronology. You know, I'm choosing some films that I find a really interesting part of your biography that I didn't know. So, what was Cruel Passion?
Well, it was. Well, now it would be nothing. I mean, then it was like quite a sort of like sexy romp.
Yeah.
And Koo Stark was quite famous for having an affair with Prince Andrew at the time. Anyway, it was. I was knocking on doors in Soho in the centre of London, where most of the little film companies were, and I was looking just to really get to do pop promos, as we called them then, rock videos. And this one guy, Chris Boga, who in his office, I was surprised. I just walked in and he agreed to see me and look at my show reel. And he said, "Oh yeah, I really like your work, but I'm not doing any pop promos at the moment. I'm going to do my first feature film." It was his first and last, sadly, but and I said, "Okay, I'll do that." Kind of old as brass. And he thought about it for a second and he said, "Yeah, okay." And I had no idea what it was going to be. And it was this sort of like, it was Marquis de Sade, story of Justine.
Yeah. Okay, so this is your first feature. It's of sort of questionable quality or questionable content, we'll
It
say.
got a great review. It got a really
Did it?
great review. It said,
Okay.
"Isn't it amazing how beautiful they can make film look these days with modern cameras and film stocks?" Nothing about my lighting. It was all the camera and the film stock, you know. But then it went on to say the film was junk, you know.
I mean, I guess I'm pointing this project out because, you know, the first feature for a lot of these students is who knows what it'll be. Do you see that in hindsight, which we all know is 2020, but do you see that as it nonetheless was your first break, being your first feature?
I actually haven't really talked about it and owned up to it until the book.
Yeah.
I've always said that my first feature was Another Time, Another Place, which was like
Okay.
7 years
Yeah.
later.
All right, let's
And
talk about that then.
and basically I've been shooting documentaries, you know, since leaving the film school, I was basically shooting documentaries until Another Time, Another Place.
But it is kind of good, though, to have your first feature be something that if you make a mistake on, you're not going to be branded by because the feature itself is so questionable.
Well, yeah, except for it's quite a, you know, I mean, back then there weren't that many films being shot, and it was quite a low time in the industry, and so there was a bit of kind of, you know, this film school student is doing a feature film, you know, there was a lot of kind of, yeah,
Mhm.
pushback in a way from the union, I guess, yeah.
Well, also I think the first few features sometimes are so difficult that it kind of separates the people that are going to be strong enough to go on.
Yeah.
One of the first features I did was it was a porn director, but this was his first straight movie. But you
Uh-huh.
can't take the porn out of the boy. You just can't. And so every chance the women were taking their shirts off, and every time being conscientious, was trying to take a continuity Polaroid, the young actresses said, "Oh, I'll get in, just like I was." But I knew if they were in there, I'd never keep the Polaroid because I kept stealing the Polaroid. Yeah. So, but I stayed in there.
Yeah. So another time, another place. That's when you met and worked with Mike Radford. Yeah.
No, I've been working with him on documentaries.
Okay,
He
gotcha.
was, we were both, he was at the film school as well, but he was in the first year intake and I was in the second. So we didn't know each other very well at the film school, but I built quite a reputation at film school because I basically shot about 15 movies for other students
Mhm.
and made my own. And so when he started getting work professionally, he sort of took me in, you know, and we did sort of documentary like arts programs and behind the scenes sort of filming on a film set and stuff. Not very much, but yeah, when he got this chance to do this feature film, which actually he was going to produce and was another person was going to direct it, and then he said, "No, I really want to make it," and this other guy dropped out. So Mike directed it, and he asked me, yeah. So that I see that as my first real break because it was actually shown at the Cannes Film Festival and got quite a bit of recognition.
Mhm.
And then a producer came up to Mike and said, "What do you want? What are you going to do next? What do you want to do?" I think this is the way it went. And Mike said, "I've always wanted to make a film of George Orwell's 1984." And the guy said, "Okay, let's do it." So that's how 1984 came about, basically.
Yeah. So a lucky break there, yeah. And then
Yeah.
we have a similar story here with your first encounter with the Coen brothers.
Yeah, well, there's a whole there's a whole period between the two. Like you can see, it's between 1984 and 1990. I was doing a lot in the UK, and then I'd done a film that I wasn't happy on at all. A very, very big movie,
Was that
and
Air America?
yes, and so I kind of I had a little house in London and I put it on the market and
Decided to quit the
I
business.
quit the business and bought this little flat down in Devon, which we still have. It's yeah, and I really thought I wasn't going to work on that kind of thing, and then I got a call to meet with Joel and Ethan, yeah, and we met in London, and it ended up I worked on Barton Fink, yeah.
Would you mind sharing with these students what the director of Air America said to Joel and Ethan when they were vetting you?
Well, you know, they obviously directors when they haven't worked with somebody, they ring around to the other directors that you know, in my case, other directors I'd worked for, and Joel had rung up Roger Spottiswoode, and Roger said, yeah, well, Roger doesn't really like shooting multiple cameras. He kind of likes to work out the shots, you know, before you start shooting, and
No Zoom.
he likes to operate himself. He doesn't like multiple cameras, and he doesn't like really zoom lenses and a lot of other things. And everything that Roger said to Joel was what Joel wanted to hear and wanted in a cinematographer. So
But Roger thought that he was
yeah,
dissing
Yeah.
Roger.
he thought he was dissing me, but actually
Right.
he was, yeah.
He was helping you get a job.
Joel never told me that to many years later, and I kind of laughed. And basically, they hired me because they wanted somebody non-union to shoot a film in LA. So, yeah,
Well, I really love that story that even when a director is complaining,
yeah,
you know, sometimes it's the right thing, the thing that people want
yeah,
to hear the most.
yeah. It was funny.
So the director of Air America gives Joel and Ethan Cohen a bad review of your work, and it's everything they want to hear. I pulled this quote out from the book. It'd been my first day of shooting, and I had avoided being physically sick.
Yeah. Well, I said
You,
that because on the first day of shooting of Cruel Passion, I had been physically sick.
mm,
I'd
mhm.
been on the set of Cruel Passion, right? I got in early looking at the set, a little set. There was a little house that had been built in a forest. And I was thinking about how to light it. And there were two guys there talking, and one was the AD and the other was a carpenter, as I found out. And they were talking to each other. And I was just standing in the corner. And after 5 minutes, they're talking to each other and they're saying, ah, yeah, the cinematographer, he's at ex-film school. He's done nothing. He'll probably last a week. I mean, this is ridiculous. And after about 5 minutes, they turned to me and said, and who are you? And I said, I am that cinematographer. And I said to the carpenter, I need a beam put up, you know, a spreader put up for some lighting. And I said to the AD, can you send a PA out to get me some aspirin or anodine or something? And they left, and I literally went round the back of the set and was sick. So that was,
From
yeah.
nerves. Yeah.
Yeah, from nerves. I was absolutely totally stressed, and they weren't helping me. Obviously, the conversation was not very helpful.
Well, can you tell us a bit about this first day on Barton Fink?
What
And
is that crane shot I'm looking at? My God,
Yeah.
that's a Luma.
Okay.
no, it's yeah, but that's a Luma 2. It's nothing
Yeah.
like the one that was on Barton
Sure.
Fink. And that's a Panaflex, and I've never shot with
No, I
Panaflex.
know. I'm putting this
Yeah,
here
yeah,
for the
yeah, yeah.
students
Okay.
to see what a Luma is. This is your plan from the book,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in because you have to understand a lot of these students are seniors. They're about to go out and shoot their thesis project, and then they're going to go throw up in the back, and so.
Yeah.
I'm plucking out lessons that I think are something you can speak to, and hearing it from you is very meaningful. And you talk about this first day of shooting, these new directors, they've done Blood Simple, you know, you've seen their work, and they have a series of shots planned, and you ask them, could we not combine these into one fluid movement? I can bring this crane on. And they went for it.
Yeah, yeah, which surprised me because I said that was the first shot we did on Barton Fink, the first time we worked together.
I'm trying to make the sound happen. I thought we might take a look.
Oh, Jen,
Yeah, it's not going to
sharing
work.
sound. Oh no, you're not sharing sound.
Okay, well, we'll just watch it then. So this was a new piece of equipment. Yeah, it was a very maneuverable telescoping crane. Can you tell us a bit about
Yeah, it
how
was
you
very
built
different than
it?
the one in the image just now because it actually was a circular crane, much lighter than that one you post, which is, got a square
Mm-hmm.
column, a square arm. The original Luma was quite a bit smaller and lighter, and it was almost like a fishing rod that extends.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So, I mean, technology is very, very different now than it was even back then.
Okay. So great cinematography, small budgets. This is what we're aspiring to here at Temple. Um, you talk about a few things I mean, you talk about so many things in your book. What is KISS?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Now, I don't know if I've chosen an appropriate image. I have to say I was kind of curious what's happening
Yeah, well,
there.
that's pretty simple, isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean, Occam's razor. Keep it simple, stupid.
yeah. You say it's nice having a guiding concept, but rules are made to be broken.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you got to know your craft, but you shouldn't be slave to it. It's like
Mhm,
eye lines, and if you do a
Mm.
storyboard, it's great, but you shouldn't be a slave to it.
mhm.
I mean,
Uh,
it's interesting you two like going from Barton Fink to Hadsucker, because Hadsucker was a very big budget back then. I mean, it was like 25 million, I think.
That was 40
Was it?
back
Oh,
then.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It was a lot of money, and it was crazy scale, and especially coming off Barton Fink. And the film didn't do very well at the box office, to be polite. And the boys said to me, "We're going to go and do a very small film up in Minnesota. You might not be interested because it's going to be very low budget." And I said, "Don't be silly." And it was Fargo. And suddenly, they were doing something very personal and very small, and suddenly they do something that is one of their most successful films. So you just can't tell. I personally like Hudsucker a lot, but there you go. Oh yeah, that's off. What's that off? Big
Big
Lebowski,
Lebowski.
yeah.
so I,
Yeah.
I, bel I believe Jeff Bridges took this.
Yes, yes. He would give us a book of all his photographs at the end of the shoot. Yeah, he had this wide lux camera. Yeah, the ones from Lebowski are very funny, some of them.
Well, let's talk about Lebowski and preparation. Um, I love how many of your diagrams and even just equipment list you include in the book. I think it's a really interesting, it can't be a resource because this is very particular to a particular setup, but it's incredible to see the kind of preparations you do. Um, this is very much for the students on our side here. This is for every time someone tells you you have too much gear.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why I put it in, really. I mean, it's like, I've never been somebody that wants to have the sort of crane on set just in case. I remember we were shooting True Grit, and there was a film shooting near us up in New Mexico, and I won't say which film it was, but in their parking lot, there were two Technocranes parked in the corner. And I happened to go past it as I was driving to work, and we had a Technocrane for one day on that shoot for a specific shot. And I happened to know the operator on this other film. And I said, well, how many times did those two Technicranes actually get used? And he said, well, in New Mexico, I think maybe we used one of them once. And you think, well, all that waste of money with this equipment, and I hate that. I just can't stand it. I think the film industry wastes so much money. It just makes me so angry. So I really try to sort of keep everything as, oh, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if we could talk about this shot here between the legs. I had hoped to play
Yeah.
it, but it looks like we'll just have to watch it without sound. I'm sure we've all seen it, but just in case we haven't.
Yeah, well, that shot was kind of funny because we'd actually got this little motor car, you know, like it was about 3'1" little forget what I don't know what you call it. It was a little motor car that we put the camera on and drove down the bowling alley, but it wasn't really controllable and it would sway off the side. So the dolly grit I worked with for like 30 years said, I'll just put the camera on a soft pad and I'll push it down the lane with a 40-foot scaffold pole. And I thought, really? But I said, okay, give it a go. Because, I mean, there's Bruce Hammy, the dolly grip, is just genius. And so he did that, and it was absolutely perfect. And he could completely control the speed and the movement, just pushing this pole. Again, keep it simple.
Was he pushing the camera or pulling the camera?
He could have done either, but he was actually pushing it because we were tracking down the alley.
Yeah. Does that surprise all of you? I know we haven't gotten to the shot yet.
And this was all done in a warehouse up on at Santa Monica Airport, and we just surrounded the set with black. And then all the stars are actually done in camera. The stars are actually pieces of front projection material that I had a roll off of left over from a film I did in the UK about 20 years previously or something. And we cut up this front projection material and put these little pieces up on this black drape. And then I just got a tiny little lens, a little light on top of the camera. It's the front projection material reflected back the light, but the light hardly affects anything in the shot other than this reflective material on the back drapes. Obviously, that was a separate element, but
yeah.
Yeah, but all that's done. Yeah.
So what are we looking at here then?
Well, that was the rig. That was the rig. I wanted a feeling of a kind of soft light, but then the other thing was that all the floor was very reflective. So I didn't want, an enormous number of highlights. I wanted something a bit more defined. And I didn't want to light the back drapes, obviously the black in the background. It was very important that they were in a kind of limbo. So I created a soft light using direct sources. So it's multiple lens lights that are, I think they're 1Ks or two. I think they're 1Ks. So you use multiple lights to create a soft source, but it's very controllable.
I'm going to skip ahead because I'm realizing we didn't really introduce ourselves to you, and you might not be familiar with Temple. Temple is Philadelphia's public university. We compete with schools that have endowments. We compete with schools that have, by and large, more resources than us, but we compete at a very high level. Temple, 48% of our college students are first-generation college students, almost half. Almost half of our incoming class are awarded Pell Grants for financial need. Just under half of our students work, full-time or part-time. So we are pretty gritty, and we figure out how to get by. We know how to keep it simple, stupid. That's just for the home audience. Our tuition costs, the tuition costs of our nearest competitors, so that would be Drexel, Emerson, NYU, they're at least twice as expensive. And yet our students emerge with an incredible skill set, professionalism. Many of them have worked on professional crews. And I truly believe that they can compete in any market. Many of them are, as I mentioned, getting ready to shoot their senior films and then head out into the world. This is some of them. I'm just going to let them look at themselves and then look at you looking at them.
Yeah, a bit of an age difference there, isn't there? Yeah.
But Temple students really do have increasingly a reputation for bringing, an exceptional degree of craft and skill. We did fortunately just manage to score a couple of Alexa 35s, some new Steadicams. So we're really trying to build up this program, which is why you can see we have a lot of interest in talking to you. I have plucked out from issues that I know our students are currently navigating, a few in particular that I was hoping we could get your advice on. So in your book, you say this in several ways, in several moments, but I liked this quote in particular. You say, it's always a balancing act when shooting a movie. It needs to look good, but what does good mean when depicting places that aren't pretty?
Yeah, well, I used to have these conversations with Conrad Hall. I'm sure everybody knows who Conrad Hall was. And I think that's a really, there's a real danger in shooting a film being seduced by something that looks superficially nice, but is it right? And I find all too often films look too pretty.
Mm-hmm.
The shots are too nicely composed, or the camera move is too elegant, or it's ostentatious or something. It just takes you out of the movie. And it's I suppose the extreme example is when you come out of a screening of a film and somebody is saying to a friend, "Oh, I love the shot when such and such happened," or I love the sunset. Ew, wasn't that pretty? And then you realize, well, that was a mistake because it took that person out of the story.
Well, yeah, and you really have to think about the story and what fits within the story and sort of commit to that. For instance, Dead Man Walking specifically,
Yeah.
Tim said in the beginning he didn't want that pretty. He wanted it gritty and
Bland.
ugly.
He wanted it bland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it all needs to fit as a piece. And when one shot just looks beautiful and another one's looking intentionally gritty, it won't necessarily work together.
Yeah. Conrad posed the question, how do you photograph despair?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a really good question. I mean, I kind of look at painters and really think that's why I kind of love Edward Munch, because I think he paints despair and melancholy and melancholia. I mean, it's just brilliant, but and it's the balance of being kind of a wonderful work of art, and I don't like the word art, but certainly with Edward Munch it is. It's a wonderful balance of the surface of the image and the effect it's having on you.
Well, and a lot of that is composition, because composition is oftentimes overlooked when people are shooting, and composition can tell the story so well without the dialogue and makes it more visceral and actually a better movie. So to be thinking composition, is this composition making it feel more lonely than if I put him over here, that kind of thing. Just using all the tools that you have to tell the story.
I'm reminded of the story you tell about scouting for Fargo with Joel and Ethan Coen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every location you go to, they say, "Is it too interesting? It might be too interesting," again and again. And they were going for a kind of spare, spacious, a kind of loneliness. And
yeah, right.
there,
I mean, in that
you and
case, it
they,
was a kind of desolation they were looking for, as you say, a kind of melancholia and loneliness. But then working with Sam Mendes on Jarhead, he wanted to put his whole he wanted to put his characters in this kind of surreal kind of emptiness, which I thought was really interesting as well. You know, so yeah, it's like Blade Runner, we were doing things as well, where we were stripping away things, you know, keeping it really, keeping it simple.
But in other times, like BB's Bar, it was about all of these things in the frame.
Yeah, it's like choosing a moment to kind of like do something that's more expressive and more complex, and I don't know, yeah.
never work with children or animals, right? Except the two of you rather liked it on The Secret Garden.
Yeah, the kids were great. The kids were great, yeah. But I mean, it was very hard because they would be playing with the camera just before we were turning over the camera.
It was kind of early in our marriage, and I always worry about kids on the set because it's a tough place sometimes, the set. So I always am trying to make sure they feel relaxed, and I talk with them a lot. And so I got to know the kids really well. And because they were very comfortable with me, they got very comfortable with Roger, which was not something he was used to.
Yeah, not really.
And he would come back after tweaking some lighting to the camera, and they were all over the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I'm noticing the girl on the left touching the camera.
Yeah, no, it happened all the time, you know.
In these last two slides, what we have on screen here are some of our DPs. So in this one is Michael Dupree, who just shot, as you can see, they managed to get a subway platform, and he was working on a project in which the director absolutely wanted things to be ugly. And I think if the question earlier is how do you depict despair, I think the question that Michael was contending with is how do you depict shame, right?
Yeah.
And here we have Kieran Klein, who is about to shoot with how many children? 5 children, all under 10.
Wow. You know, we watched a film recently called Don't Let's Go
to the Dogs
Tonight, which is set in Zimbabwe. Well, it was set in Zimbabwe before it became Zimbabwe. It was Rhodesia at the time. And it's got this young kid in it, and the performance is just magical.
But you have to realize when you're working with kids, they're not used to it possibly, and they don't have all the coping mechanisms. So the more you can create a space around them that they feel relaxed and they feel like they're among friends, the more you're going to help them perform. Because
it definitely happened on Secret Garden.
Yeah.
And this film I was talking about, I read, you know, the director was like, she'd written a script with lines, but the kid couldn't really get the lines, or when the kid was reading the lines, that would be what it was. She was reading the lines, so the director started talking to the young girl during the shot, and it's a magical performance. So I think it's, you know, just kind of getting an idea of what helps each individual. It's with any actor, not just kids, that every actor kind of like is slightly different. Some actors want to engage with you if you're operating the camera, and some actors don't want to know about the camera. They want complete privacy in a way. So it's yeah, everybody's different.
And the key is that if you don't get that performance, you don't have a
Yeah,
film.
film, yeah.
You may not have a great shot frame or something, but if you have the performance, you're going to be able to tell the story. So you're always working to create a space where the actors
Yeah,
can do what they have to do.
yeah.
How do you do that behind the camera? Like, what are some things that you think about or that you try to do to create that space and protect it for either, you know, the performers or the director?
Well, you as a cinematographer are responsible for the crew, basically the shooting crew that are on that set.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so you kind of basically you choose people to work with that are quiet and are respectful of everybody else. And also it's partly why I like to operate myself, and why I like a very small crew that I've worked with before, because there's a sort of routine, and I'd say very much a very large part of the job is to help create that space so the actors feel comfortable, and to give the director time with the actors as well, you know.
And there's a lot of crews out there that they're so into what they're doing, they're yelling, they're screaming, and instead of walking over to tell someone, oh, move the lamp over there, they yell it across set, and they're just so unaware of the fact that this is a working area. And even the people that are trying to reset the set, or the cinematographer who's trying to figure out what this new setup what changes it might need. Everybody really does need that time, quiet, to be able to function and do their job. But there are other people that are only doing their job when they're actually on camera, and sometimes they're around you talking loudly, and that just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's just getting a balance, you know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is my last, and then I want to turn the mic over to the students. Final shot in 1917 is on the right, obviously. On the left is DP Ava Mendelsohn, who is about to go out just this weekend and is doing a lot of shooting with the sun and thinking a lot about how to control the sun. You describe getting this last shot. The sun came out, and that's where the movie ends. You talk about, you say a film is about storing character, not lighting and fancy camera work. And this is something we preach here in the film department at Temple as well. You also say we had waited at least 5 hours for this moment.
Yeah.
And so, as you know very well from your scrappy student days, when you're a student filmmaker, there's certain luxuries that are out of reach. So, you know, professional actors who know the shot's critical and can nail that last take of the day, camera operator, focus puller who have a lot of experience and can kind of take those cues that are wordless from the DP to capture it. And I think that, you know, for student DPs, sometimes they have a hard time convincing their young directors that some tools, even, you know, like a 12 by 12, even tools that look big and cumbersome are critical and necessary, even if we are trying to go for a kind of naturalism that, you know, the camera is not our eyes, and some degree of manipulation and control of the elements is required to achieve that natural look. So I guess I'm wondering, can you offer advice for DPs who are navigating that in how to balance or how to talk to their directors when they're trying to balance the vision and the constraints of production?
Well, first I got to say that last shot on 1917, and basically most of the film, yeah, we waited 5 hours before we saw that we were getting cloud, And we shot the whole film in cloud because we had to, in order to join one piece to another, it had to have a consistency. But I was just lucky that was one small cloud came across on the first take of the last section. And I just timed it so that we could shoot in cloud until George sat down at the tree and then the sun came out.
But also, the whole thing was because we were doing a single take throughout the whole thing. If we shot one setup a day, oftentimes we made the day. That's what it was scheduled for because they were quite long. So it wasn't the same thing as when you're doing a scene and you've got to get 24 setups in order to finish the scene.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if it hadn't been for all the peripheral kind of things around the production, that one shot at the end of the film would have been very, very cheap because it didn't really take that many people to do. And basically it's what, 3 minutes screen time or maybe more in one take. So it's not necessarily the way you want to make a film. You might want to make a film with a lot of cuts or not.
But also for, DPs, if they know they're going to be in a situation where it's problematic, the sun might come here or might do that. When you're planning how you're going to shoot it, you need to figure the shots that will give you the most flexibility. Oftentimes it's a compromise. You're not doing the shot that you ideally would like because that may, for instance, it may be that it's going to take longer than one hopes and that there's a window and you're going to lose the light and you can't go up 5 flights to bring some more light in or something. So you kind of work around what the limitations are ahead of time. You plan that so you can get within that compromise, get the best shot that you can.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say I've really changed my approach though on the budget. It's not that. I think, a script demands certain amount of thought, effort, and technology.
But you do change your approach on the budget. I mean, if it's a smaller budget, you're not going to say this is a solution.
You come to that feeling when you read the script and know the budget in pre-production. So I've never felt during a shoot I've been more compromised or less compromised on a lower budget film to a large budget film. It's like you get your head around what the needs are of the particular project.
But you also, in the prep, you don't plan the shot that needs the big crane, the big Musco or whatever, because it's just not in the budget.
Rarely do that anyway.
But you know what I'm saying.
No, absolutely.
I'm going to hand this microphone over. Thank you for all of those thoughts. I think that was all incredibly valuable. Just give us a moment while we all shuffle around trying to be polite, because I think everyone would like a question. Okay. Why don't we answer an online question while these folks are figuring out who gets the mic first?
Very good. Hi there. I have a question from Will McGinn. It says, "Hi, Roger and James. I recently went through the application and interview process for the National Film and Television School's Cinematography MFA, and having interviewed with Oliver Stapleton and Stuart Harris, I unfortunately did not get in, but coming up soon I'll have the opportunity to visit and tour the campus. Being an alum, do you have any advice on who or what to look out for while I'm there, or any general advice for young cinematographer looking to study there?"
No, I mean, just if you get a chance to talk to Oliver, I mean, I'd take all the time you can. The National Film School's changed very much since when I was there. It was just starting. We had a lot of equipment. They gave us quite a lot of money to make our own projects, and we would sometimes put the money we had as individuals together to make a film, and we were basically left to our own devices. It was very anarchic, and I liked it for that. Some people made the most of it, made their own films, or like me, made my own films and shot films for other people. and some people just fell by the wayside. But but now it's more structured courses, and we've been there a few times doing seminars and things, but I think it's a very different world than when I was there. So, sorry, long answer. I can't really give you that much advice. I hear they're doing building an AI stage, so that might be interesting.
Hey, Roger and James. My name's Owen Bush. I'm a cinematographer here at Temple. Just wanted to say it's quite an honor to be here in your virtual presence today.
Yeah.
With such a saturated market of high-end equipment these days, it seems like there's kind of a driving movement to let the technology do the work, and improvised decision making is sort of dwindling a little bit. Roger, I know you're a bit of a tinkerer yourself. I've heard you talk a lot about how you developed the keyhole look on Jesse James, and I'm a big fan of that. I'm wondering what advice both of you might give to a young cinematographer or director who wants to make big choices with a small amount of money.
I think you should look at any film by Robert Bresson.
I think
The camera hardly moves.
also, I think that doing things in camera is always cheaper than having to go through visual effects.
There is that. But I think people overthink things, and again, you get all these ostentatious shots, and you think, well, what was that for? It didn't really, it didn't help the scene. I'm no more moved by it than if it had been a static frame. I think again, it's just you go back to the basics and see what is the essence of the scene, of the story, of the shot requirements. Yeah, keep it simple.
Stupid.
Got another one in
Yeah.
the chat.
I do have one more in the chat. Jeremy Castro Cook asks if you have any advice for working with a crew that are more invested in screen grabs for their portfolio versus serving the entire picture.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I've always been very lucky. I kind of, I've met people along the way that I've worked with for many years on many different films, and it's so important you find the right people that, not to say that other people aren't excellent or whatever, but people that you personally relate to and that you feel comfortable with, and you basically grow together as a bunch of friends working together. Yeah.
I think too that one of the things that I used to do is go on the set and you get to know the people, and I would just look for the weak link, and oh gosh, that prop person is not really on top of it, and know to pay more attention to that area. I would always look for the areas that I'm going to have to get more involved in, because they're weaker. Because the thing is, when you do a movie, you never know what the combination of people are going to be, and not all of them are your choice as crew, because there's somebody else's choice, and you just have to look out for them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Casey Boyack. I'm a junior directing BFA, and I was wondering what you look for in the directors you work with as a cinematographer. So the practices of the director, how they work with you and communicate with you specifically, and the crew in general.
I'm just looking for somebody that has a passion for making the film, but making a film of the script. I mean, passion is the most important
Passion
thing.
and collaboration. That
collaboration.
a director that's a collaborator and is secure enough that they don't feel that they need to know all the answers to the questions, because nobody has all the answers. And if there's something they don't know, they just turn to one of the many talented people they have around them and find the answer, and want to listen to other people's ideas, and being secure enough to know that if they don't like the idea, they're not going with it, but they might find an idea that they hadn't thought of, which makes it a better film.
Yeah.
We have time for one more. Okay.
Hi, I'm Seth Tavermina. Thanks for being here. I'm a senior DP at Temple as well. And I just wanted to ask, you know, when you're in a like more of a leadership role on a film set with maybe a crew or people you've never worked with, I guess, do you have any advice on like how to build that relationship, how to work with these people, and to like get the best outcome possible?
Well, I think, as James was just saying, actually, it's really important that you allow people to feel they're involved and contributing. And even if you've got a very solid idea of what you want to do and how you want to light something and what actual light you need and where you want to put the track, it's always good to allow the people you're immediately working with in your crew to have some input on that, you know. And you never, sometimes you change your mind, but
Yeah, just ask people, what do you think about this?
yeah.
And it's most of the time you're going to continue doing it the way that you want. But if anybody, if they feel like they're part of the process, is going to do a better job. If somebody's never just told push that button, pick that up, you're only getting half of them.
It's the same as you feel as a cinematographer, a relationship with a director. The director just wants you to put on a 50 mil at 3 inches above whatever it is, and they have a very strict regime of how to shoot. Then I don't find that interesting. So just the same way, I can't imagine any crew member is going to find it interesting if they're just told exactly what to do and they're just operating like a robot.
Right.
Anyway, it's not much fun either. The fun of it is the collaboration and exchanging ideas and pushing each other, basically. A number of times, Bruce Hamill, Dolly Grit, I worked with for 30 odd years, would whisper in my ear, "Why don't we do a little push in here?" Or why don't we slide the camera? Or why don't, and it's just great, have that input.
Well, and also, funnily enough, that Dolly Grip was also always paying attention to the story.
Yes.
And he would say, but why would they have that book in their hand? Because they didn't before. And he was right, and everybody else was really focusing on everything else. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I do have one last question for you because it's such a good one. Mergonk Mahay online asks, if a student studied only your mistakes, what would they learn?
I've never made any. No, the biggest mistakes I've made have been my choice of project, where, as I said in the book, I have been fired a couple of times. And the biggest mistake is not trusting your instinct. I mean, there was a couple of projects I went on, and instinctually, I knew I shouldn't have been on those projects. So I think you've just got to trust your gut, really,
I think also that the set is a highly stressful place, and it's very easy to get very upset when somebody seems to be blocking your way or something. And it would be really good. This isn't my strength, but it would be really good when something like that came up to walk away from it for a little while and calm down a little bit and then come back and find a way. When I was starting out, that we would and got into movies, we could always tell who the feature creatures were and the people that came from commercials, because if there was an issue on set, the commercial people would blow up right away, but the feature creatures, the people who did features all the time, knew enough to hold off as long as they could and then maybe blow up at the wrap party or something like that, if you could, or the last week of shooting.
Yeah.
It just was a knowledge.
It's true. If you're working for whether it's 5 weeks or 15 weeks with the same people in kind of, sometimes long hours and extreme conditions, tempers can fray. It's very easy to sort of, so you've got to kind of judge it. It's like running a marathon. You don't go off in a sprint, you just have to judge that time, and slowly like me on Cruel Passion, it took me a while, but I needed to get the trust of all the other crew members because I think initially they all thought, who is this guy from a film school? He obviously knows nothing. But by, halfway through the shoot, I think they had great respect for me because they realized I did know what I was talking about.
And that you weren't going away.
And I wasn't going anywhere anyway. Yeah.
Well, James and Roger, it has been just an absolute pleasure. Can we have a round of applause?
Oh, thank you, guys. No, come on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I see you're actually here. Thank you so much for joining us, and don't be a stranger. Don't forget about Temple. Really love the book. I highly recommend it to everyone. I know some of our students have already purchased it. I am loving it. Congratulations on the book. Congratulations on your wonderful marriage and anniversary. And hope you have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
again.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
Bye.
And good luck.
Yeah.